Johnny DiMera's world the most unimaginable way. For weeks, tension has been simmering beneath the surface of his life, but nothing could have prepared him for the devastating revelation that will soon rock his family to its core. A dark secret, one buried in the past, will soon rise to the surface, forcing Johnny to question everything he thought he knew about his father, E.J. DiMera. Roman Brady, always a steadfast presence in his family's lives, will take it upon himself to warn Johnny that he doesn't truly know the man he calls his father. At first, Johnny might brush off Roman's concerns, believing that while EJ has done questionable things, he could never compare to a criminal like Arnold Feniger, the man who once assaulted his mother, Sammy Brady. But Roman isn't one to mince words, and his next revelation will turn Johnny's world upside down. EJ is just as guilty of the same horrific crime. The shock will leave Johnny reeling, but nothing will prepare him for the final confirmation that will solidify his rage. Kate Roberts Brady will step forward to confirm that Sammy was the woman EJ attacked. In that moment, everything Johnny thought he knew about his own existence will come crashing down. The horror will sink in as he realizes that he is the product of that crime. His very life was conceived in violence, in betrayal, in an act of unthinkable cruelty. The realization will send him spiraling, and his first instinct will be to confront the man responsible, his own father. The anger will be unlike anything he's ever felt before, and he will find himself grappling with emotions he never thought he'd have to face. His father, a man he looked up to in so many ways, has been harboring this dark secret all along. Johnny has never been one to back down from the truth, and this time will be no different. The fallout from this revelation will be catastrophic, not just for Johnny, but for everyone in EJ's orbit. Long-buried wounds will be reopened and lines will be drawn as loved ones take sides. Some may argue that the past should stay in the past, but for Johnny there will be no forgetting, no forgiving, not when his very existence is the result of such a violation. As the weight of this truth settles on Johnny's shoulders, the tension in Salem will reach a boiling point. And this revelation could not have come at a worse time. EJ has already made plenty of enemies, and now the list of those who would love to see him pay for his sins is growing longer by the day. The question is no longer if EJ will face retribution, but when and how. There is a storm brewing in Salem, and EJ is at the very center of it. Gabby Hernandez has been keeping a gun close at hand, and she certainly has her own reasons for wanting to see EJ gone. Belle Brady, enraged and betrayed, is seething with fury. Rafe Hernandez, freshly returned and struggling with gaps in his memory, will surely start piecing things together soon, raising even more questions about his history with EJ. And then there's Jada Hunter, whose own rage has been simmering beneath the surface. Add Johnny's newfound fury into the mix, and it's clear that EJ has no shortage of enemies with a motive. With so much hostility surrounding him, it seems inevitable that EJ will soon find himself in the crosshairs of someone seeking justice, one way or another. And as fate would have it, that moment is coming much sooner than anyone expects. In just a matter of days, E.J. DiMera will be shot. The question that now looms over Salem: who pulled the trigger? The possibilities are endless. Did Johnny's anger push him over the edge? Did Gabby finally decide that the only way to free herself from EJ's control was to take matters into her own hands? Could Belle's grief and rage have turned her into a killer? Or perhaps Jada, who has been struggling with her emotions, finally lost control? Even Rafe, who still has so many unanswered questions, cannot be ruled out. And then there's Arnold, the man whose return to Salem has stirred up fear and fury. Could he have decided to take matters into his own hands and rid the world of EJ once and for all? Or was it someone no one even suspected? Regardless of who pulled the trigger, one thing is certain: EJ's world is about to come crumbling down, and the aftermath will be explosive. Even if he survives the shooting, his days in Salem may be numbered. Wounds this deep do not heal overnight, and the damage done to his relationship with his son may be beyond repair. Will Johnny ever be able to look his father in the eye again, knowing the truth of his origins? Will this revelation finally break EJ in a way nothing else has? And most importantly, if he does survive, how will he ever recover from the consequences of his past sins? One thing is for sure: Salem will never be the same after this. And as the mystery of who shot EJ unfolds, more secrets are bound to come to light. Secrets that could change everything we thought we knew about the people of this town. The dark history between E.J. DiMera and Sammy Brady is one of the most controversial and painful chapters in Salem's past. Their complicated relationship, filled with love, hate, and manipulation, was forever marked by an unforgivable act. one that changed both of their lives forever and ultimately led to the birth of Johnny DiMera. It all began during a time when Sammy found herself in desperate circumstances. With her life spiraling out of control and the man she loved, Lucas Horton, in grave danger, she was left vulnerable and without many options. EJ, a man driven by power and a twisted sense of control, took advantage of her desperation in the most unforgivable way possible. He offered Sammy a cruel ultimatum. If she wanted to save Lucas, she would have to sleep with him. Trapped and terrified, Sammy was left with no real choice. It was a moment of ultimate betrayal, one where EJ wielded his power over her, forcing her into submission under the guise of a so-called deal. But in reality, it was far from any kind of mutual agreement. It was coercion, manipulation, and a violation that left a lasting scar on Sammy's soul. The aftermath of that night would haunt her for years, shaping her actions, her relationships, and her deep-seated resentment toward EJ. At first, Sammy tried to bury the trauma, pretending it had never happened. But the weight of what she endured refused to stay hidden. She wrestled with feelings of shame, guilt, and anger, emotions that she tried to suppress as she struggled to move forward with her life. But fate had other plans, and soon she discovered she was pregnant. The realization sent shockwaves through her, forcing her to confront the horrifying truth: she was carrying the child of the man who had taken advantage of her. The pregnancy became a turning point in Sammy's life. She was torn between fear and love, between resentment and duty. How could she bring a child into the world under such circumstances? How could she look at this baby and not see the dark history of its conception? Yet, despite everything, she carried on, determined to protect her unborn child from the sins of the past. When Johnny was born, Sammy was faced with an entirely new battle, one that forced her to navigate the complex emotions of loving a child who was a product of something so painful. But as any mother would, she did what she had to do. She chose to see Johnny for who he was, not where he came from. He was her son, an innocent soul who had no part in the darkness that surrounded his conception. And over time, Johnny became a source of light in her life, a reminder that even in the midst of tragedy, something beautiful could emerge. Meanwhile, EJ, despite his unforgivable actions, found himself wanting to be part of Johnny's life. Whether out of guilt, love, or a need for control, he sought to establish a connection with his son. But the stain of his past could never be fully erased. His pursuit of fatherhood was forever tainted by the way he had forced his way into Sammy's life, and no amount of apologies or attempts at redemption could undo the damage he had done. Over the years, the relationship between Sammy and EJ remained volatile. There were moments of passion, moments of war, and times when they seemed inexplicably drawn back to each other despite the darkness of their history. But no matter how complicated their relationship became, one truth could never be ignored: Johnny was a constant reminder of the night that shattered Sammy's world. Now, as Johnny finally learns the truth about his own origins, the carefully built walls around this long-buried secret are beginning to crumble. The revelation that EJ raped Sammy is not just a bombshell, it's a reckoning, one that forces Johnny to grapple with his identity in a way he never expected. The father he once admired is now a stranger, a man whose sins run deeper than he ever imagined. And the mother who loved him unconditionally has carried the weight of this truth alone for far too long. Johnny's rage, his pain, his confusion, all of it is justified. He has every right to be furious, to demand answers, to seek justice for the mother who suffered in silence. The impact of this revelation will ripple through Salem, shaking the very foundation of EJ's carefully crafted world. And while some may argue that the past should be left behind, Johnny knows that some sins are too great to be forgotten. As this dark chapter resurfaces, one question remains: can Johnny ever truly come to terms with the truth of his existence? Or will this revelation destroy the last remaining ties he has to his father forever?